What is up, you guys? We are here for our Saturday night secret sermon. This is our late night after midnight sermon of the week where we delve into the Gnostic Gospels. The playlist is called Secret Teachings of Jesus. If you go over to my channel, you can see like over 100 videos that are along this subject matter. And yeah, I always wanted to read the other gospels, the lost gospels, the ones that weren't included in the official canon. And I didn't know I'd have time to do that or make it a regular discipline. So I thought if we made it a weekly segment, then we could all share it together. And so this is my favorite segment of the week. And I think everybody else loves it a lot too. So love that. Currently, we are in the Gospel of Philip. If you look on the playlist, the other gospel that we have covered was the Secret Book of James. That was so long ago that I was wondering as I was flipping through the Nag Hammadi scriptures the other day, just like thinking about like, what are we going to cover next? Because we're almost finished with Philip. We've been in Philip for over a year. So the Secret Book of James is shorter, and but the Gospel of Philip is like 1 million of these small portions of text, and they're all really cryptic and esoteric and kind of meant to be meditated on. The Secret Book of James we did a long time ago, and I can't remember whether we did several of the portions and sections or whether we did the whole thing. So I'll have to go back and look at that and research that. But I don't know what we're going to do next. There's a few that I really want to cover, and I'm not like, I don't know what to do first. I won't tell you guys so you don't skip ahead, or you'll, get into it yourself if you'd like, but don't let me hold you back. But I don't want to spoil anything. Okay, so tonight's portion is called Farming. And so I will read this to you, and then I will read it again a couple of times, and then we'll unpack this line for line. And so if you haven't seen this before, I come in from work, I open the book, and I pick out the portion that's standing out to me. So then I basically just start the camera, and I start giving you guys the downloads that I'm getting. So we're studying this and learning it together in real time. All right, farming. Farming in this world depends on 4 things. And a harvest is gathered and taken into the barn as a result of water, earth, air, and light. There are some footnotes. I will read this once or twice through, and then we will go into the footnotes. So farming in this world depends on 4 things. And a harvest is gathered and taken into the barn as a result of water, earth, air, and light. God's farming also depends on 4 things: faith, hope, love, and knowledge. Faith is the earth in which we take root. Hope is the water with which we are nourished. And love is the air through which we grow. Knowledge is the light by which we ripen. Grace exists in 4 ways. It is earthly. It is heavenly. There's some missing text there, so ellipsis, and then the highest heaven, and then ellipsis, so missing text. Okay, so farming in this world depends on 4 things. And a harvest is gathered and taken into a barn as a result of water, earth, air, and light. Air, there was a footnote. So air, come down here, it says, or wind, or spirit, here and below. So air can be interchangeable with wind, and throughout the scripture, when it speaks of a wind, it's talking about like the Spirit of God. usually. So farming in this world depends on 4 things. And a harvest is gathered and taken into the barn as a result of water, earth, air, or spirit, and light. God's farming also depends on 4 things: faith, hope, love, and knowledge. So knowledge has a footnote, gnosis, here and below. So gnosis is like the higher knowledge, the higher wisdom of esoteric secrets, and like the knowledge of understanding, that higher like channeled wisdom. Gnosis is like sacred knowledge, hidden wisdom. Okay, and like knowledge of like creation and things like that. Okay, so farming in this world depends on 4 things. And a harvest is gathered and taken into the barn as a result of water, earth, air, and light. God's farming also depends on 4 things: faith, hope, love, and knowledge. Faith is the earth in which we take root. Hope is the water with which we are nourished. Love is the air through which we grow, and knowledge is the light by which we ripen. And then ripen was ripen on faith, hope, love, and knowledge. And there's a reference to 1 Corinthians 13 and the Secret Book of James. So we have farming as a metaphor, farming symbolically and literally. Because what are we made in the image of? In the image of God. And God is a creator. And so we are made in the image of the creator. And so as we understand how we are made, we also understand how to make. As we understand how we are farmed, then we understand better how to become more like farmers, right? We are a vessel made in the image of God, and we do our best to try to become more like God and behave more like God and conduct ourselves more like the Creator does and share that consciousness with the Creator. And then the more we become like the Creator, the more fruits of the Spirit we yield, right? We get a harvest from the works of correcting the negativity in our soul. And so by overcoming and transforming our negativity, we transcend our vices and we reveal them as virtue. So the more we build affinity with God, then the more we resonate with God, and the more we can draw close to God and be in that zone of protection and provision and being in the influence of that Spirit, that Holy Spirit, that nurtures, that provides, that gives to. So farming in this world depends on 4 things. And a harvest is gathered and taken into the barn as a result of water, earth, air, and light. So you need these elements to be able to grow things, to grow as a person, to grow your soul, to grow these fruits of the Spirit. What are the fruits of the Spirit? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, forgiveness, I think is in there, and self-control. And so I think in order to really have and maintain any of the other fruits of the Spirit, one needs self-control, because you have to be able to be the master of your thoughts, right? You have to be able to know how to take control of your thoughts and cultivate your thoughts and say no to some thoughts and yes to others, and not be in a passive state, being victimized with your thoughts, but rather have sovereignty over them and practice being aware and choosing. And that takes discipline, but it takes practice, but we can all do it. So farming in this world depends on four things. And a harvest is gathered and taken into the barn as a result of water, earth, air, and light. Oh yeah, okay. So self-control over your thoughts. Your thoughts start to inform your feelings. And then many times, like when we are like feeling a lot, then it's hard for some people to detach from their feelings and still choose using your choices and thoughts and free will and not just being reactive to your feelings. So you have to have mastery over your feelings, and you can't suppress them or completely control them. It's just that you have to be able to navigate them and surf them and be able to feel the feelings, but not necessarily act in response to them or act reflexively to them or be affected by them when you choose and take action. So you have to learn to be emotionally sober without suppressing or denying or pushing away. Like, we want to embrace the feelings, but they can't control what we do and how we are. You know, we have to be able to use reason around them. And so we've got thoughts, our consciousness, our feelings, which is connected to water. So our thoughts are like air, and our consciousness is connected to air, the air suit. Water is connected to our emotions, so our feelings. Then we've got to be in control of our physical behavior, right? We have to have that physical self-mastery and discipline to make ourselves show up and do the actions, or restrict from certain actions. And so that's earth, air, water. And then we have to have that knowledge and that certainty, like that higher knowledge, that spiritual wisdom. There is like official, like sacred knowledge and wisdom that's like gathered by study and passed down from like master to student. But then there's this knowledge that you get from within, and it doesn't come from an outside source. And so I'm connecting this too with gnosis. I think that gnosis is like that lived experience where you live the truth and you know the truth, and the truth will set you free. It's a knowledge that's revealed to you through spirit, I think from God. Like if you are like have a desire and a determination to understand the hidden wisdom and secrets and symbolism in the Bible and in the Torah. The Torah is an encoded like mystery key, and it's you can't just read it straightforward. And so when you read sacred texts, it's like everyone has different insights that are revealed to them as they read them, or they can, you know, if they're really connected and spirit is talking to them when they're connecting with the material. And so that's what I would also consider that knowledge, is that ability to tap into wisdom without having like an outside source, to be able to go inward and then like connect with it wirelessly, right? Spiritually wirelessly, and have faith and confidence and certainty in the Creator. And so with this like self-control over these various elements, when we have mastery over these elements, then we become more of an effective co-creator. And we can have more of an intentional effect on the things that we're creating in our reality, rather than be at the mercy of it and the effect of it. Okay, so farming in this world depends on four things. And a harvest is gathered, taken into the barn as a result of, literally, when you garden. Gardening is such a great like teacher of, it's so metaphorical. I never run out of like ways that like nature talks to me and teaches me through gardening and just models life. And the different ups and downs and challenges and journeys through life and the things that we need to learn. It's like it always translates. Nature is so wise. So farming in this world depends on 4 things. To get a harvest, you out of a barn, you need water, lots of water to feed your plants. You need earth, so you need good soil, but you need any soil. You need a medium to put the plant in or the seed in. You need air and you need light, right? So elementally speaking, the water is connected to spirit, but also our feelings, our emotions, our soul. The earth is related to like our physical action. Sorry, I was getting a notification from work and I was like, I don't know what that is. But the earth is related to like our physical actions, like what we do, how we show up, like how we present, how we embody our wisdom and our like spirituality, how we translate that into how we show up and who we are and how we act and how we behave and the things that we do. The air is connected to our thoughts, our consciousness, our perception, our ideas, our imagination. So our insight, the way that we have understanding about the wisdom, because you can gather wisdom and you can memorize knowledge, right? But unless you have understanding, it's not activated. And unless you embody that wisdom in some way, then it's useless. So it takes both. It takes like the wisdom and the understanding and the sharing and the vessel, the restriction and the delivery of that wisdom. So farming in this world depends on 4 things, and a harvest is gathered and taken into the barn as a result of water, earth, air. So the idea is the quality of consciousness that you have, the way you perceive things, your hermeneutic lens, your perspective. And then where was the other? And the light. So the light is like the illumination, that sacred wisdom and knowledge. Insight, glimpses into the deeper mysteries is the light, illumination. God's farming also depends on 4 things: faith, hope, love, and knowledge. Faith is the earth in which we take root. Hope is the water with which we are nourished. Love is the air through which we grow, and knowledge is the light by which we ripen. So faith is the earth by which we take root. Now think about, like, doesn't faith feel earthy? Think about like when you have faith, when someone has so much faith, and they're not shaken. They have like this calm, this stability, like a groundedness. Like, think about that earth mother type that's never got her feathers ruffled. And it's like no matter what problem or challenge comes their way, they have like an even keel. Their nervous system is calm. Like they have a plan. They never seem panicked or scared. Like faith is sturdy like that. It's grounded. It's emotionally sober. It's not flying off the handle. It's not flighty. It's not reactive. It's chill. It's stable. It's sturdy. It's consistent. It's solid. It's unwobbly. It's balanced. I just keep thinking sturdy, right? Because when you have faith, it's like you can stay calm. You're not like driven by fear and in survival mode or anything like that. So when you have faith, then you're not in a reactive, jumpy, panicked state. So you can be more grounded in your decisions and not reflexive and not jumpy, not panicky, not quick to act and then make a mistake, right? So faith gives you the threshold to stick it out when things aren't certain and when things are difficult, right? When you think about building the vessel, preparing the vessel to receive the light, it's like the size of your vessel is kind of connected to your self-worth. It's like, how much do you think you're worthy of receiving? How much can you accept? How much can you receive? But then the strength of your vessel is kind of connected directly to your faith, because like, what can you hold without cracking under like the pressure or the paranoia, right? Or like losing, faith and losing certainty and then like spilling out your blessing, sabotaging it in some way, squandering or losing it. Think about any time that we've been in a situation that required us to take a risk or like jump, stretch outside of our comfort zone or push ourselves to the next level. And it's like, you're like, okay, I got this. And you're doing so good as long as you like are confident and believe in yourself. But then the moment like you just get weak and you're like, no, and you start downward spiraling in like self-doubt and like nervousness and fear. And then you do something and you take like an action, you get reactive, you panic, you do something and you totally blow it, but like grounded, like earthy, solid, right? That's where is that? That's faith. Faith is like feet firmly planted on the ground. I'm not like dysregulated. I can see around me and practice calm, grounded awareness. And I'm not reflexive to my emotions. Like faith knows that God has their back, right? Faith is sturdy. I love that. So faith is the earth in which we take root. And think about like, imagine growing roots into really good soil, like a squishy, mossy ground. Think about being a tree, like putting your roots deep down in that like tight hold of the ground, that sturdy roots, like it feels strong. So faith is the earth in which we take root. Hope is the water with which we are nourished. Now, think about like a plant when it hasn't had water. It's just like, wilted, shriveled, dry. And that's exactly how we feel when we have no hope, right? Hope is quenching. It is emotional, right? Where faith is more sobriety driven and reason driven, and it's like beyond reason, but it helps you keep that fulfillment and stability and sense of reason. Hope is that thing that like quenches you emotionally, right? It's not as solid as faith, but it's that feeling that allows your heart to be warm and open and not give up and not despair. It's like when you feel like that fatigue, that soul tiredness, and you just feel like desert drought, crawling on hands and knees, like so thirsty, so brittle, so ready to just blow away in the wind and give it all up and throw in the towel. Like when you don't have hope, it's like you're so thirsty for an oasis, like that just natural spring of fresh water to drink it in the desert when you feel like there's no end in sight, and you're way too far gone. There's no going back. You're like, how am I going to get through this? Like, hope keeps you going. Hope is the emotional quencher that we need to keep our roots from drying up. So hope is the water with which we are nourished. Love is the air through which we grow. Now, when you think about a plant, if it's in stagnant air, it's not exposed to the wind, like it doesn't build strength. The plant itself is flimsy. Like the more air and wind that the plant is exposed to, the tougher it gets and the stronger it gets. Well, the same with us. If the stronger our connection is with spirit, the stronger and sturdier we can withstand the gusts of wind when life blows unexpectedly. And so also too, love is the air through which we grow. You want fresh air, right? You don't want stagnant air. And so love is like the perspective, the consciousness that we have to choose to keep things healthy, to keep things fresh, to keep things sweet, to keep things alive and not stagnant, to keep things moving. We have to think of things in terms of a perspective of love and not a perspective of fear. Perspective of fear is like it's toxic and it destroys the plant, doesn't nurture the plant. But a perspective of love, that shifts all of the follow-up thoughts and the follow-up feelings. And think about when your body, like chemically speaking, is thinking in terms of love and high vibrational thoughts and pleasant thoughts and things that make that person laugh or feel good. That puts a lot more positive chemistry in the body than if a person is fearful and angry and bitter and vindictive and sour and et cetera, et cetera. We know that those emotions, fear, nervousness, anxiety, hypervigilance, like all of that puts really toxic chemicals into the body, right? So the air, we need to have a loving perspective, choose a loving consciousness, because that makes everything else healthier too. And the thoughts, the consciousness is the spring. It's the spring head through which everything else flows. So whatever your consciousness is, that's getting into all your other thoughts, all of your other feelings, all of your other actions. And then knowledge is the light by which we ripen. And so having like deeper insight and understanding, that is what sweetens our fruit and gives us more depth and dimension, right? If you have ever learned anything about wines, you might know that grapes that have been through a little bit rougher of like a season, like the elements, like maybe they've been raised in like drier, more arid climates. Those grapes that have to be tough and withstand the dry times, they end up being the sweeter grapes. The big, giant, gushy ones that have had tons and tons of rain, like they're not always the most flavorful. That they don't have the depth and the dimension and the character that the flavor of grapes that have been through drier and harder seasons end up having. Same with the fruit of knowledge. When we are connected with our own relationship with God, with Holy Spirit, and we spend that time in meditation, prayer, contemplation, study, and we pay attention in our life, right? We're not just going through the motions and phoning it in. We're like thinking about how our life's experiences relate to our soul assignments and our soul growth, right? So by that light and that wisdom and that awareness and that hunger for more understanding and more wisdom and more awareness and more transformation, it creates like this this wisdom and this knowledge and experience in us that wouldn't have been created had we just continued on autopilot going through the motions. But because we had a desire to learn and to seek and to change and to transform, it's like that light is revealed and awakened more and more and more. Not everyone is like this, right? Not everyone has a desire to have any kind of insight or understanding or wisdom, particularly when it comes to like the sacred wisdom and hidden things. They don't necessarily care. They're just like worried about their mundane earthly life, right? They're just going through the motions of water, air, earth. What does it take to grow my physical crops, right? But they're not necessarily trying to grow their spiritual crops, but some are. And those have a quality of light that ripens and sweetens them. And so grace exists in 4 ways. It is earthly, it is heavenly, the highest heaven. Well, all of this is missing text, but let's just contemplate grace for a minute. What is grace? Grace is mercy, it's compassion, favor. Grace is forgiveness. It's maybe like forbearance or like an extension on something, a delay. Divine favor, redemption, mercy. So in an earthly way, grace exists because, we've all experienced grace in an earthly, physical ways, right? Oh, that was a close call. If we had not seen that car come out of nowhere and like swerve, like we would have been in a horrible accident, like those kinds of close calls. If you've ever gotten in trouble and been on the verge of like getting into real legal trouble or something like that, and it's a near miss and you get, like a grace, like a charge is dropped or like, let off with a warning or something, those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I've just had a moment of grace. Like God was with me. Like God was good to me. I did not deserve this. Like, oh, when you have a moment of goodness that you didn't deserve necessarily, and you're like, oh, it's just miraculous, and you're so grateful. Those are physical graces. I think when we experience God's grace within our lives through miraculous means, through other people, it's humbling, and it's a moment where you're like, oh, you have awe, you have gratitude. Like those are beautiful moments. They reveal beauty and tenderness from God. Now the heavenly grace, this is kind of what I think of it as, like when we don't deserve like a way out of chaos that we totally earned, when we don't deserve forgiveness, when we don't deserve that stay of like grace, that forgiveness, that a second chance, third chance, fourth chance, but we keep getting those anyway. And God keeps giving us another chance to learn our lesson, even though we keep fucking it up every time, right? That is heavenly grace, like continued opportunity to try to do it better. That is the grace that Kabbalah assumes, that we come back and we're reincarnated life after life in order to continually try to complete the work of our tikkun, our soul's correction, or our karma. And we keep coming back until we get it right, or we have several chances to come and complete it. That would be heavenly grace. Heavenly grace is the fact that there is time and space between cause and effect. Like we are like manifestors, like co-creators, like God can manifest thoughts into things. We can do that too, but we have time and a delay. And like our actions We might have consequences to our actions, but it's like on a delay, so it's not immediate. Like that is a level of cosmic favor and grace that the universe shows us, because without that delay, like if we did a negative action, it would be like an immediate karmic punishment. Or if we had a bunch of like doomsday catastrophizing thought, like shitstorm going on, like thank God we don't like instantly manifest our thoughts and beliefs and the things that we that have like the perfect storm of like what it takes to manifest things. Like thank God we're on a delay, right? Because how many negative things would we be manifesting from our thoughts like all the time? So there is a delay. There's grace in that. Even with the things that we want, sometimes when we think about it, we don't want the things that we want. So we have this grace period, which is nice. If things were immediate, like it would be chaotic. So grace exists in 4 ways. It is earthly, it is heavenly. Now, if we think of the other, what would we be? The water. So maybe grace is emotional too, like in the water realm, because the heavenly, I feel like heavenly is connected with the light. Earthly is connected with the earth. Water would be emotionally, and fire, air, love, thoughts, conscious grace, thinking about things differently than we used to, having more humility than we used to. That's like consciousness grace. Yeah, awesome. Well, let's read this portion one more time, and I think we're out. Farming in this world depends on 4 things, and a harvest is gathered and taken into the barn as a result of water, earth, air, and light. God's farming also depends on 4 things: hope, faith, hope, love, and knowledge. Faith is the earth in which we take root. Hope is the water with which we are nourished. Love is the air through which we grow. Knowledge is the light by which we ripen. Grace exists in 4 ways. It is earthly, it is heavenly, missing text, and then the highest heaven. And on that note, we are fini. The weekend reflection message, I didn't get to film it because me and my sister went out for dinner last night, and then I came home and I was like food coma. I could not make a video after pasta binge. So if you want to see our weekend message though, you can go to my channel and look at the posts tab or the community tab or wherever you see the posts. You can see the photo and the blog that was written for today. Or you can look at it on Instagram where I'm Liz_Taylor_Magick. All right, y'all. Tomorrow we will be back for our weekly energy oracle forecast. There is a new moon tomorrow. I have to go to lunch for my mom's birthday before work, so I don't know if I'll be making a new moon workshop for us. That's probably too much to do when I come home from work after work, so I'll probably do the weekly energy oracle forecast, and depending on how Monday is, maybe I can catch up with it on Monday, or we'll just try to catch it the next time. All right, y'all, see y'all tomorrow. Ciao.